Hi, I'm Mike Roberts, Principal Analyst for Informa Telecoms and Media here at the LTE Americas event in Dallas. I'm with Tony Melone, the CTO of Verizon Wireless, well known as one of the biggest operators in the world and one of the first, if not the first, going to LTE. Tony, first question is really simple. How's it going? How are the plans?
Well, the plans are going as expected. When you're first and you're leading, you always expect to kick the tires on the technology, and with your infrastructure supplier partners kind of working through all the issues. And so we're exactly where we expected to be at this point. We've hit some speed bumps along the way, which are expected. What you don't want is to hit brick walls along the way, and we haven't seen any of that. The technology seems to be delivering what has been promised, and so we're very happy and consistent with our plans to deploy in 2010.
Fantastic. In our research, we look at the global market, and we've noticed there's the pioneers such as yourselves. The number of companies launching LTE in 2010 has declined recently. There's still major players such as yourself, but it's not as big a group as before. I just wonder if you see that as a problem, or do you see that as a sort of natural evolution when we get closer to actual launch dates?
Yeah, I think it's natural. I think the challenge is when you want to lead in a network deployment, the scale, resources it takes to do that. I think the reality of that kicks in. So we're not surprised to see that. Quite frankly, we don't think that has a material impact on the overall ecosystem. We think a company like ours driving LTE in 2010 creates enough momentum with the ecosystem that we establish and create the kind of buzz that we expect.
You speak of the ecosystem. A lot of the ecosystem is gathered here at the LTE Americas event, and you gave a fascinating keynote. Just what is the role of a conference like this, and how do you find these events? What role do they play in the evolution of the ecosystem?
Well, I think these events create a great opportunity. You gather companies with a common interest, but different viewpoints. You leave a conference like this, hopefully with new insights, with new perspectives, and to go ahead and lead in your respective areas. And that's what I hope and I expect will happen from conferences like this, that companies will go out and and they hear the different perspectives. They're going to drive different components of that ecosystem, and as a result, the overall ecosystem benefits from it.
Speaking for Informa, we'd certainly like to see you or a colleague at the LTE Global event coming up next year, because you're obviously fundamental to the ecosystem, but we'll worry about that later. Devices. As a mobile operator, you have a huge array of devices, whether from slick mobile handsets to USB modems. I wonder if you're concerned about the device timelines for LTE, or are you comfortable that everything's on the schedule?
Well, that anytime you're launching a new technology, I don't think the word comfortable ever comes into the equation. We are confident that, again, because of the momentum we've created with this aggressive deployment, that the device manufacturers, the OEMs, the app developers, that whole ecosystem community see a reason to also be aggressive. So I would say, if I look back a year, I would say our current viewpoint on devices and availability is more promising than it was a year past because of that aggressive deployment that we're pushing.
Wow, so there's been actual improvements in your sort of timeline.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And voice, we've had a big announcement by you and others, operators and vendors worldwide, on the One Voice initiative for LTE. I wondered if you'd like to comment on that, first of all, and then second, how you see voice migrating from the existing circuit switch minutes onto perhaps IP-based over time.
Yeah, okay, good questions. Let me start with One Voice. Essentially, what we see One Voice doing is, because of the significant components of the standards with LTE and the profiles, etc., it's very easy with so many different variables in the standards for various carriers to implement their voice solution differently, which tends to negate the ability for seamless roaming. I think it's very important that we as an industry get together and decide, okay, what is the profile, what feature set, etc., and standardize around that for this service we call voice. And that's what we've accomplished today with the announcement, and I think that will pay great dividends in terms of the future to our customers, quite frankly, with seamless roaming. Now, the second part of your question in terms of voice migrating to a VoIP solution over LTE, we think that will naturally happen as more and more devices penetrate with LTE, as the networks evolve, and voice will be a natural application on those devices. So the question really becomes footprint availability, elegance of the device, of having LTE only or CDMA and LTE, etc. So my best prediction at this point in time is it will be evolutionary, not revolutionary, in terms of the migration. That CDMA 1X voice will still be prevalent years from now because of the efficiency of that technology for voice. But those applications where voice and other aspects, video, etc., need to work seamlessly, great opportunity for VoIP over LTE.
And if you had to pin a date on the beginning of that opportunity, I know it will start small and will take time. What date would you pin on the very beginning of the
again, I think the standards work still needs to happen with release 9 for LTE would be required for that. That's coming in 2011. So I would predict more of late 11 to 2012 when you're going to see any significant voice over LTE occurring.
One data question for you. At Informa Telecoms and Media, we crunch the numbers like you and others do in the industry. We're currently forecasting 40 million LTE subscribers worldwide at the end of 2013. I just wondered, I know you can't comment on your outlook for your own numbers. Would you see that as relatively okay, or quite cautious, or too aggressive, or?
I don't have a number in my head in terms of worldwide, but I think you're probably underestimating the number, would be my guess, based on that number.
Fair enough. Interesting. You mentioned in your keynote some of the key developments happening in the industry, basically the move from a more closed telecoms model to a more open IP, internet-oriented model. How do you see LTE catalyzing that transition, and in detail, how is that going to change a company like Verizon Wireless?
Well, again, LTE being an all-IP technology, it's just a natural evolution to what you're seeing in the broader world of IP and internet, etc. And you can see the collaboration and the partnering and how vital that is. I think what that does for a company like ourselves and Verizon Wireless, it just expands the opportunities that we have ahead of us. And this partnering collaboration allows us to give our customers what they want and more of they want, and make it seamless. And so the more customers have reason to utilize our network, the more beneficial it is for us. So that's how we see that ecosystem evolving and how it benefits us in the future.
Interesting. You at a major operator will know every opportunity also comes with challenges. Some people have talked about when you're going to a more open network, you may have more security risks. You may have more problems with viruses or that sort of thing, the classic computer problems. Are those major challenges, or are those more things that you'll just be addressing over time?
I would say they're challenges. I'm not sure I'd put the adjective major in front of it, but there are definitely challenges, and there's a lot of work being done to stay ahead of that. And it certainly creates more exposure, but quite frankly, today in the 3G world, we have those same issues today. And so we're managing through that well, and we expect to be able to manage through that well in a 4G world.
Fantastic. Another thing that we often hear in the 4G world is the universe of devices, the network of devices, the device-to-device, machine-to-machine. Is that going to be a major segment, or is that really something that's going to start quite slow and develop over time?
Yeah, well, again, many factors will dictate the answer to that question. One of the big factors for machine to machine is cost of the units. So we think that because of the global scale of LTE, that's an enabler for allowing that particular part of our industry to grow tremendously. So we do think it will be a bigger piece rather than smaller as we look ahead.
And the last question for you. We've had quite a debate here in the U.S. about net neutrality. Do you see LTE, the move to LTE, playing any role in that debate, or is that more of a separate regulatory debate?
I think it's a separate regulatory debate, but I would comment on that to say if you look at our industry and look at how competitive it's been, regardless of your feelings about what net neutrality means, you know, the question is there a need for any regulation in that area? And I would submit to you that this industry has been so competitive, has fostered so much innovation, that there's really no need for regulation, and there's no need to get in there and screw it up.
Right. Tony Melone, CTO for Verizon Wireless, thank you very much.
Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you.